U.S. troops want General Petraeus to change the rules of engagement so they can better defend themselves, even at the risk of more Afghan civilian casualties. But the newly installed commander may not go that far. Congresswoman Jane Harman chairs the Homeland Security Subcommittee on Intelligence and joins us out here in Aspen. Let's talk about General Petraeus. We're told he's going to clarify the rules of engagement. The troops, as we know from the Rolling Stone interview and other places, were very clear that they're not happy with some of the restrictions on their way of defending themselves because there were concerns about civilian casualties. What can Petraeus do? And in a larger context, what about the mission?
Well, let's start with this issue. He said in his confirmation hearings that he was probably going to review and possibly change the rules of engagement. I think it's very important that our troops get maximum protection, but when you think about that in the context of a counterinsurgency doctrine focused on protecting population, it's a very tricky deal. It's threading a needle. I think counterinsurgency is going to prove hard to accomplish in Afghanistan. The more we learn, the harder it is.
But that's the key to the strategy.
Well,
that's why he's in charge.
I understand that, but just look at what's happening with the transfer in Iraq. You were just there, Andrea. There is no government in Iraq. An entrepreneur is out here at Aspen saying he would put up a great big hotel in Baghdad, but he's waiting till there's a government. How are we going to transfer this country where counterinsurgency doctrine was successful to somebody by the end of August? And if we don't, and we leave 50,000 troops there and may call in the UN's record is not very impressive. So going back to Afghanistan, I think that David Petraeus, the most able soldier we have, is going to have to start thinking about how can we modify the counterinsurgency doctrine so that we can protect populations, protect our soldiers, but also transfer Afghanistan to a government which has massive corruption problems in a nearer term than he may have originally contemplated.
And perhaps it's not a central government in the classic sense. Nobody really thinks that by July 2011, which is the date where we're going to begin to draw down conditions depending on the ground. We've heard all of the caveats there. But does anyone really think it's going to be a central government? I mean, from Kabul to Kandahar is light years in terms of real governance.
And I think the way to deal with the rampant corruption is to start at the tribal level and to use these Shura councils, which are much less corrupt, much more transparent, and much more widely accepted as the level of government through which we start affecting this transfer. I don't think there's going to be a strong central state in Afghanistan, and I don't think it's any of our business. I think our business is to protect our country from attacks from al-Qaeda and other terror groups which are targeting us. And in that connection, the indictment against Zazi yesterday and some others connected to him, the fellow who was
Pakistani terrorist,
the Pakistani American who was going to blow up a car in Times Square, and others. Oh, that's Shahzad. Zazi is the fellow who was coming from Denver and was going to blow up the subways last 9/11. Yes, but that is really troubling, and that is where the threat is coming from.
But you're defining success differently. You would define success as some stability, turning it over to them, regional governance. You will not defining it the way the administration is. You don't think that's achievable?
Well, I'm watching this closely. I've traveled to the region many times, maybe not as many as you have, and I care about not cutting and running out of Afghanistan. But I don't think a larger footprint in our military mission is the way we'll succeed in Afghanistan, and I've said this many times. I think the way we will succeed is to lower the level of government through which we work, insist on a pretty strong anti-corruption plank, and lower our objectives. And our objectives should be to stop those who would target the United States and U.S. interests, not to build a replica of Thomas Jefferson's democracy in Afghanistan.
Because that ain't going to happen. Jane Harman, thank you very much.